My name is Silvia, and I'm a climate energy campaigner for Greenpeace, and I am not used to introduce films at film festivals, so this is why I have the notes, and hopefully that will give me a little bit of confidence. I don't know if you've watched the movie, if you've just watched the trailer, maybe you don't know anything about what's going on here, somebody dragged you here, but I will not spoil the film too much for you. The premise is very, very simple, but it's also very realistic. Oil company goes to the Arctic, they're looking for oil, they take some environmental experts with them, hoping that they will help them solve the conundrum of how to drill for oil in extreme conditions. It's very realistic for a horror movie, except obviously something is off, something is wrong. I will not say too much about the threat in the movie, I will not spoil it for you, but even if you've just watched the trailer, you probably know that it's the fear of the unknown that plays the biggest part. It's this vast Arctic landscape, and somebody in the movie looks at it and describes it as pure white nothingness. And it's really tempting to believe that that's nothing, that there's nothing out there, that it's empty. The truth could not be more different. But these are exactly the kind of thoughts, the kind of stories that we tell ourselves when we think about these areas of the world where we don't want to think about the impacts of our actions. And we think of them as distant, as far away from us, different from our built environment, because in the words of one of the characters in the movie, people just don't want to deal with it. And thinking of these places as nothingness, of course, helps a lot. And also because they look like there's no human presence there. But the Arctic is not just home of rich ecosystems, very cute animals, it's also home to people, and very often it's indigenous communities. This makes me think of all the communities around the world who live in such similar zones that are also considered sacrifice zones. Sacrifice zones are places where communities, residents that are often people of color, indigenous people with low income, and what they have in common is to live in proximity of polluted places. Think of oil refineries or petrochemical plants or military bases. Those are also very nasty places. And thinking of these places and these people as nothingness makes them expendable, obviously. And one of these places that you've probably seen in the news recently is Louisiana, that was hit by a huge hurricane. And the Gulf of Mexico, where Louisiana is littered of fossil fuel extraction sites, refineries, and so on. And the people who live there, they pay the hardest price. But they pay the hardest price, the first price, but it's actually all of us who feel the consequences of our extractivist system. We have seen here in Belgium the floods, in Europe we've seen wildfires. So we've seen the consequences of the climate crisis. And a little bit like in the film, they realize it's everywhere, and that's where the climate crisis is. The climate crisis is everywhere. And I'm going to quote something straight from the movie, not my words, but this is good enough. One of the characters says, what if the very thing that we're trying to pull out of the ground were to rise willingly and confront us? So in the film, they are terrified of something that it's out there, but they don't know exactly what it is. They don't know why it's coming at us, how this is happening. And it's happening fast, and it's a bit confusing, and that's maybe, but that's where the similarities with climate change stop, if you want. And in real life, we have a huge advantage, and that is knowledge. Because in real life, we know what's coming at us, we know why it's coming at us, but we also know what we can do to stop it. And there's no more uncertainty, there's no more unknown to hide behind. And this is why we can only act, because there's no place that it's worth sacrificing. Enjoy the film.